transcription app for this because, honestly, I don't like typing and I'm not exactly the best with words. This happened. I don't even know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. My life's been a mess since then, full of chaos, so my head's crowded with random memories. But this one? It sticks. It was New Year's Eve, back when I was still dating my ex, Duda. We were driving home from a party when everything went sideways. Must have been well past midnight. I remember being exhausted. And yeah, driving on New Year's Eve isn't smart, I get it, but we had no choice. The party had been at one of Duda's friends' places, but we were last-minute additions, so no one had room for us to crash. The drive was long, maybe 30 minutes, but the roads were eerily empty. Snow had fallen earlier, and the streets were slick. I was grateful for the emptiness, but it did nothing to ease the tension. Duda was half asleep in the passenger seat. I had the heat blasting and some random rock playlist going, just to keep my brain awake, just to keep me from dozing off. You know how it is. We were maybe 10 minutes from her place when it happened. And I don't even know how to explain it. 1 second, the road was completely clear, and the next, there she was. Standing. In the middle of the street. Not crossing. Not moving. Just there. Facing us. Like she'd been waiting. My brain literally froze. I hit the brakes before I even fully processed what I was seeing. And that's when I saw it, a knife. She was holding a massive kitchen knife by her side, the kind you carve a turkey with. My headlights lit up her face. It was twisted. Screaming? Crying? Both? I couldn't tell. It was grotesque, horrifying. My instincts kicked in. I yanked the wheel right to avoid her. And then she lunged. I heard the impact before I even understood what happened. She had swung the knife at my car as I passed, and the swerve combined with the ice made the tires lose grip. We spun. Out of control. Duda woke up mid-spin, screaming. I gripped the wheel like it would help, but there was nothing I could do. The car had a mind of its own. We spun a full 180, ending up facing the other direction. And that's when I realized we were now facing her. Maybe 30 feet away, knife still in hand, illuminated by the headlights. She was limping toward us, like she was injured but determined. She screamed something I couldn't understand, guttural, animalistic. Pure, primal terror. Her clothes were ripped and filthy, hair matted. Her eyes, there was nothing in them. Like she was a walking corpse. 15 feet out, my survival instincts kicked in. I slammed the car into drive and hit the gas. Tires spun, but we started moving. I thought we were free. But no. She moved impossibly fast. 1 second in front of us, the next, on the hood. The car shuddered. Duda screamed. I cursed. She clung to the hood with one hand while stabbing the windshield over and over. I thought she was trying to kill me. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe. I swerved back and forth, wild, desperate. She slid, but she wouldn't let go, screaming that insane, wordless scream, face inches from mine. Eyes locked on mine. Then, finally, she slipped. Rolled off, hit the pavement hard, slid into the shoulder. I managed to stabilize the car this time. I looked in the rearview mirror. She wasn't moving. Part of me wanted to stop, which sounds insane, but I did. Maybe she was just hurt. Maybe I'd killed her. But Duda grabbed my arm, shaking, insisting we go. It's not our problem. We can't get involved, she said. I suggested calling the cops, but she shut that down immediately. They'll blame us. We've been drinking. No one will believe us. She argued sharp, persuasive, cold. And I believed her, at least for the moment. So I left her there and drove home, silent, trembling, heart hammering. I didn't tell anyone. The car was barely damaged, cracked windshield, knife marks on the driver's side window, a few scratches on the hood. No blood, surprisingly. I fixed it a week later, but the guilt stuck. Months later, I was checking the news obsessively, hoping for a story about a body, a missing woman, anything. Nothing. Part of me wonders if she got up and walked off into the woods. Another part of me doesn't want to know. What messed with me even more was Duda. She acted like nothing happened. Days later, she was laughing, planning, going out with friends. I brought it up once. She got annoyed, told me I was overreacting, that we did what we had to do. I just stared at her, thinking, how can you be this cold? A woman tried to kill us, and we might have killed her, and you just forget? We broke up a few months later. Sure, mostly for other reasons, but that night changed how I saw her. Maybe I'm crazy, but something like that, it doesn't just fade. That night, I might have ended a life. That woman might have ended mine. And no amount of time or logic can make that disappear from your memory. Even now, thinking about it, my hands start to shake. The sound of tires on ice, the scream she made, the way her eyes just locked on mine, it's burned into me. Every New Year's Eve since, I can't shake the memory, can't convince myself it was just some drunk, deranged woman. It felt unreal, like a nightmare unfolding in real life. And part of me wonders, if I ever see her again, would I recognize her, or would she just vanish like a ghost once more? I went to Cal Berkeley for undergrad. That's where I met one of my closest friends, Garrett. His real name is Gua, but freshman year he introduced himself with his American name, and it just stuck. He's from Hong Kong, came to the States to study computer science, and honestly, he might be one of the smartest people I've ever met. After graduation, we went our separate ways. I moved to New York for work, and he went back to Hong Kong for the same reason. We're both in our late 20s now. Career-wise, things are going well. Relationship-wise, not so much. We try to see each other at least once or twice a year, him flying here, me flying there. I know how lucky that is, and I never take it for granted. But this, what I'm about to tell you, happened last New Year's Eve, and I still think about it constantly. I've mentioned it to a few people, but nobody really knows what to make of it. Honestly, either do I. By the way, Hong Kong is 13 hours ahead of New York. Midnight over there? It's only 11 a.m. here in New York City on December 31st. Garrett celebrates both the regular New Year and the Chinese New Year. So he was out partying that night, same as me, just 12 hours ahead. I spent New Year's Eve with my two closest friends in the city, Ryland and Ari. We started at Ryland's apartment with some drinks, then made our way to a rooftop party in Williamsburg that one of Ari's co-workers had invited us to. It was surprisingly fun, classy for Brooklyn, but not over the top. Around 11:30 I noticed her. She was standing near the bar alone. I walked up, introduced myself, and immediately, there was this spark. She had this energy, funny, charming, magnetic. Easy to talk to. Engaging. 5 minutes in, she grabbed my hand and pulled me onto the dance floor. Her name was Mitra. I asked her to repeat it because I'd never heard it before. She laughed and said everyone just calls her Maitri, which is basically how you pronounce it. I thought that was adorable. She even wrote it on my hand, just in case I forgot. Things escalated fast. We danced, talked more, kissed at midnight. By around 12:30, she asked if I wanted to leave. We grabbed an Uber back to my East Village apartment. I'll spare you some details, but it was a night I'll never forget. We stayed up talking. I learned a lot about her. She was from San Diego, an artist, mostly a painter, though she had a background in graffiti and murals. Her middle name was Mia, also the name of one of her cats. Another cat named Cosmo. Birthday April 28th. Her best friend grew up in a tiny German town called Hillesheim. Her dad was a patent lawyer. Random details? Maybe. but they matter later. At some point, she mentioned her clothes smelled like the bar, so I threw them in the wash. She borrowed one of my t-shirts to sleep in. We fell asleep not long after. I can't even tell you the exact time. Next morning, she was gone. At first, I didn't think much of it. People leave after hookups, it happens. I assumed she slipped out early to avoid awkwardness. Fine. But then I noticed things that didn't add up. My apartment door. Standard lock. Only locks from the outside with a key. Doesn't auto-lock. I get up to use the bathroom, and the lock's still engaged. Either she somehow locked it from the outside without a key, or she never left. Both impossible. I checked the apartment. Small space, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, living room, tiny kitchen. No secret exits. Windows barely open. I even searched my closet like a fool, thinking she might be hiding. She wasn't. My mind started spinning. Had I imagined the whole night because I'd been drinking? I paced, frantic, hoping she'd suddenly appear just to reset everything back to normal. But her clothes were gone from the dryer. The t-shirt I lent her? Gone. She had clearly slept over, but she was nowhere. No number. No contact. Nothing. I spent the day replaying everything in my head, repeating the details, afraid I'd forget. Later that afternoon, I felt this strange urge to call Garrett. No reason. Just a weird impulse. Not like I had anything specific to tell him. But I called. We talked. Work, New Year's celebrations, the usual. But something was off. I asked him what was wrong. He sighed and told me he met a girl the night before. Hit it off, went back to his place, and she left in the morning without saying goodbye. No number. No contact. Nothing. He was bummed. I laughed and told him the same thing happened to me. The exact same thing. And that's when it got really freaky. Her name? Mitra. Like my tree. A chill ran down my spine. I asked him to describe her. Every detail matched. Birthday April 28th. From San Diego. Painter. Used to do graffiti. I cut him off before he could finish. Did she have a cat named Mia? He went quiet. Then said yes. We spent 15 minutes listing everything we remembered. Every single detail matched. It was horrifying. It got worse. He had pictures. The exact same girl. I was certain. We tried to rationalize it, but every explanation was absurd. And remember the time difference. Garrett met her around 11 p.m., December 31st, Hong Kong time. I met her at 11:30 p.m. in New York. 12-hour difference. A flight from Hong Kong to New York takes at least 15 hours. No way she could have made it. And even if she could, how would she know to go to that exact party? End up talking to me? Use the same name? Same details? We had no answers. None. Neither of us ever saw her again. The part that haunts me most is how real it felt. She wasn't a hallucination. We talked for hours. She slept in my bed. And then, vanished from a locked apartment with no other exits. Garrett and I tried to find her online. Mitra. No last name, an artist from San Diego. Nothing. New Year's Eve is coming again, and this memory hits harder every year. Usually, these kinds of experiences fade. But this one? It only gets stranger. The more time passes, the scarier it becomes. The thought that I may have slept with a ghost. Sounds insane, right? I don't have a better explanation. And maybe there isn't one. This story is actually one of my dad's. Before he had kids, he and my mom used to travel constantly. They were both ambitious early on, especially my dad, smart with money, sharp instincts, always thinking ahead. By their mid-20s, They had both the freedom and the income to enjoy life, and skiing became their thing. Vermont was the closest real option from New York, so over time, they started buying property there. The first place was in a town called Lello, bought from a man named Mr. Black who lived on West End Avenue. My dad always called it the Black House, half because of the shutters, half because of the name. They'd sell quarter shares to friends and rotate weekends to help with expenses. Eventually, they moved on to a second place, deeper into Vermont, halfway between Lello and Rutland along Route 100. Locals called the area the Lake District. 5 lakes lined up along the road, quiet and isolated. Their lodge sat right on the edge of one of them. My dad went in on it with his close friend Victor and Victor's wife, Lisa. The 4 of them spent a lot of time there together. This happened on a New Year's Eve, years before I was born. My mom and Lisa were out of town for a wedding, so it was just my dad and Victor at the lodge. It was December 31st, cold and still. They were upstairs drinking beer, listening to music, watching the snow fall through the massive windows that faced the lake. Dad always said it was one of those nights where everything felt paused, like the world had gone quiet just for them. They had the radio on, waiting for the New York countdown, when suddenly the entire lake lit up. A flash, blinding, intense. At first, my dad thought it was fireworks, but it didn't come from the sky. It came from the ground. And there was no sound. No echo. Just light, pure, silent light, washing across the frozen lake and the trees beyond it. Victor stood up immediately, walking toward the window, squinting into the darkness. Dad asked what he was looking at, and Victor said he thought something was moving out there. Dad laughed it off. There were no houses, no roads, nothing on the far side of the lake but forest. But Victor didn't laugh. He grabbed his coat and boots, said he was going to check it out. Dad tried to stop him, but Victor was already halfway downstairs. So Dad followed. They stepped out onto the back deck, and that's when they heard it. A voice. A child's voice. A young boy crying out, "Help, help!" At first it was faint, almost swallowed by the cold air, but it was unmistakable. The sound was coming from the lake itself. The ice had been frozen solid for months. Without even thinking, they stepped onto the ice. Their boots crunched as they moved, breath fogging in the air. As they got closer, they saw him, a small figure standing near the far side of the lake, maybe 20 or 30 yards from the shore. A child. Then it happened again. Another flash. Brighter than before. My dad said it was so intense he had to drop to his knees and cover his face. For a few seconds, he couldn't see anything at all. When his vision returned, the boy was gone. Just empty ice. Snow. Silence. That's when fear really set in. They turned and ran back toward the house. Victor was ahead when he suddenly shouted and pointed toward the lodge. He said there was a child standing in the upstairs window, watching them. My dad looked, saw nothing. But Victor was shaking. They ran inside without another word. They searched every room, every closet, every corner. Doors were locked, windows sealed. No footprints. No signs of anyone being there. Eventually, they gave up and went to their rooms. Either of them noticed when midnight passed. Dad said he woke up twice that night, both times hearing faint laughter echoing through the house. By the time he focused on it, the sound was gone. What haunted him most wasn't the boy, it was the light. That impossible flash that came from nowhere. He and Victor talked about it for years, trying to explain it away. Lightning, flares, reflections, fireworks, nothing made sense. Whatever it was, it happened twice and never again. They cut the trip short and didn't tell my mom or Lisa for years. Even now, my dad doesn't know what he saw. He's told me this story maybe 3 or 4 times, and every time, when he gets to the part about the light, his voice trails off. I once asked him if he thought it was something supernatural. He just shrugged and said, I don't know what else it could have been. That's the part that sticks with me. You can rationalize almost anything, weather, reflections, imagination, but my dad isn't dramatic. He doesn't exaggerate. Whatever happened on that frozen lake stayed with him. A child's voice. A blinding light. A moment that never made sense. And decades later, it still hasn't let him go.